From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Garnoski. So glad to be back with you for hour two of our broadcast today. Or if you're listening on our podcast, maybe you need to take a look at subscribing and joining the fun every day. It's fun to have these conversations because we're guided by a fresh perspective. We don't just tell you what to think. We give you equipment to figure out how to navigate the world of confusion today, how to navigate the nonsense, and to chart a path that is an abundant life, a life without being ruled by fear. You know, you literally see people who listen to every word Dr. Fauci say, and then they feed their kids chicken McNuggets every day, you know? And they say, oh, I'm doing everything the health, and it's just sad. You know, it's frustrating and it's sad at the same time. You say, you know, okay, so you're not letting your kid play outside. You're making them wear a mask all the time. You're putting hand sanitizer, which I've seen a lot of stuff that it can mess with your liver. Some of those hand sanitizers, using them all the time like that. You're not allowing your kid to develop a healthy, regulated immune system. You're not giving them, and then you don't give any proper nutrition, and then you feel like you have the self-righteous stupid. It is the dumbest stuff that you're going to go lecture the world because they don't put their kids in the garage with a mask on 24/7 either. You know, it's just insane. But that's what the TV party does. They make you feel like, doing ridiculous stuff. When you listen to what they, in terms of they make you believe that it's important to eat chicken McNuggets while you lecture the rest of the world for not putting a mask on their 2-year-old or whatever. You know, it's like how pathetic and stupid the TV party is. It's one of those things that it's just breathtaking to see. It's breathtaking because there's so much opportunity for doing the right thing to empower your kid's immune system, to empower your kid's health and nutrition. We did a discussion with Dr. Al Dannenberg today, who's a periodontist, right? And he's someone who does a lot about nutrition. And it's important to stay away from the massive amounts of sugar, the massive amounts of vegetable oils. The seed oils are disgusting. But, these people that want to tell you that, hey, we're going to strip you of your liberty, we're going to strip you of your ability to have life, travel, anything. But we're not going to tell you a darn thing about the toxic garbage that people are putting in their bodies, which is the big elephant in the room for why so many people have lethal experiences with this virus and the chronic illnesses that nobody's talking about. If you remember when CNN found it politically convenient to put the death count up every day for Donald Trump? Imagine if they did that every day for cancer, heart disease, these things that the government told you they would fix, but all they seem to do is just mask symptoms and never solve the problem. Now, why in the world would we ask them or listen to these same usual suspects about how to take care of our kids' and families' health in the future with this virus or whatever else? They don't tell you a lick of truth about anything else related to their failures of the single-payer nutrition science guidelines, also known as the food pyramid, and the subsidies that both sides, Trump, Biden, and everybody else, have always subsidized. They don't tell you that. So why are you going to listen to them? They tell you to go get your Krispy Kreme donut and your chicken McNugget and sit at home and wait till some stupid dolt on television tells you to get up and go outside. Are you really going to debase yourself that much? See, that's the problem with evil. It always debases humanity. Evil promises to glorify you, but all it does is debase you. It debases you. It mocks your dignity. That's all it does. It mocks you. And so it's important for us to mock evil, to expose it, to show it for what it really is. You cannot allow it to mock your dignity. Evil, and what I mean by evil is stupid groupthink. That's evil. When you send people off of a cliff collectively because you want people to follow lemming behavior, that's evil. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help people get healthier. And you can't get through to a lot of people who are desperately paralyzed by fear and ignorance. But what you can do is speak to folks who at least still have a semblance of being able to think for themselves. Joel Polak says the medical expert testifying right now in the George Floyd Derek Chauvin trial is a radical Trump hater who thinks it's okay to diagnose people like Trump without examining them. Gee, I wonder why he might have volunteered to offer testimony. I guess it's referring to this tweet from Jonathan Rich, who says, please take it easy on Mr. Trump. He truly can't help himself. He suffers from an actual medical disorder. So, but that's what everything is. Everything is partisan. Everything is politicized. But it's always been politically saturated. But as I mentioned to you before, you just couldn't see it because people were all believing and trusting in the state so much that they didn't need to proselytize so aggressively to keep you back in the faith. Now that people are starting to say, hey, I got decentralized media, I've got, social media, I've got citizen media distribution networks. I don't have to believe in the same nonsense. The TV lied to us. They told our grandmothers to get rid of butter and switch to margarine, and it sickened millions of people as a result. Billions if you look at what the worldwide impact has been. They told you don't eat a steak even though humans evolved as fat hunters. That's scientifically fact. But it doesn't matter to these idiots, because if they are told by a guy in a white coat that mayonnaise is what you have to eat every day to protect yourself from COVID or something, they do it. Because some people get paralyzed by fear. And then they spread that nasty stupidity to other people, getting them caught in bad ideas. And then the worst thing is when they use that nasty, toxic fear to deprive kids of their dignity to have a happy life. Putting them in little bubble wrap and putting them in hand sanitizer, what that does to the liver. Putting that on every day. Eating their stupid soybean oil fried nuggets. I mean, good gravy. I mean, what that does to the mitochondria, what that does over accumulation over years. These dressings and dips that are made with soybean oil, you don't want to eat that garbage. But why can't that's the thing that bugs me so much, because I can't fathom the level of stupidity or evil that people who want to be nanny state people, who know that billions of people hang on their every word in the media, and they know that, and they still don't tell them one bit of direct information like I'm doing you, that I have a hard time believing how that could possibly be. And that's the problem with folks like you and I, is that we are not in politics for a living. We're not in that hall of being a lackey for giant corporations and bureaucracy. So we just don't have the ability to empathize or put ourselves in their shoes to see, yes, people are that stupid or that evil, that you can have that much power over low information people's minds. And I'm talking about those TV experts that we all know about, that tell us all the things about medicine and all this, but they never tell you anything about the scientific evidence of what omega-6 vegetable oils do to your body when you consume them on the levels that Americans have been told to consume them and have had their money subsidizing for them to consume. And don't tell me, oh, Trump's the answer. Trump was subsidizing this stuff too. So it's not about one politician saving you. It's about thinking for yourself with your God-given reason and your conscience, and being able to discern facts and weigh things and look at the evidence and understand that it's out there, that you can see it. And and they can't spend one day. That is the thing that is just so heartbreakingly sad about this time. Is I can't imagine. Okay, you got to go push your big pharmaceutical stuff. We know it. But could you at least as well tell people to drop so much of the seed oil consumption if you have any ounce of moral decency or just normal human, any drop of kindness in your body? Could you please tell these people who buy into your every word for health in a paralyzed state of fear for over a year, please stop eating the industrial waste product that has been subsidized by your government or at your expense into your body? And they can't do it, and I cannot stand that. It's heartbreaking to me because there are millions of people that we can't get through to because they are so caught up in this cult of the state. And nothing, and if the TV doesn't say it, if their official TV party outlets that they believe in doesn't say it, and if the state doesn't say it, especially the state agents that the TV tells them to like, it's a TV state religion. It's both, right? Because the TV told them to hate Trump, and so when anything he said, they automatically hate it. So when he was saying, yeah, we're going to cut China, they're, oh, don't worry. Remember the TV told them, boo, and the stupid people booed. Yeah, boo, boo, don't cut travel to China. This is not a problem. And the media, the mainstream media used to attack people who were early talking about the dangers of this COVID thing. And so the stupid people who buy into whatever the TV said, and I'm sorry to call it stupid, but what the heck else after this long of seeing the record? Goodness. I mean, it's just, it's not an IQ thing. It's not an intelligence thing. It's an ignorance thing. And it's a willingness to believe in a cult. Because it's like people are just, you've seen the evidence that they get it wrong over and over again. The TV was laughing and deriding and attacking people who were early talking about watch out for this virus in China. They were laughing at them and attacking them. And so did the dumb people who now tell you, don't you do anything until Dr. Fauci tells you. They were the same people saying, no, there's nothing to it. Then the TV told them, it's like input, output. You know, you just, zzz, and they do whatever. They stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. It's like a robot, you know? And they just do it on cue. And so but I still have compassion, of course, for the millions of people and billions of people who are that, stupefied by TV groupthink. And it's just heartbreaking to know that there's no ability to seemingly get into their hearts to help them see what they're doing so that they can, break out of that stuff and stop eating the toxic seed oils and the high amounts of sugar and so forth. That's where you need to move things. Why can't they just have one person just say, hey, stop doing this to yourself. Stop eating this stuff. Stop consuming these things. It'll help your body, but they can't. They just can't. At this point, they can't. And we have to see what we can do to do what we can to help people see reality. We'll take a break and return live on A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornosky, your host. You can email me, hello@aneighborschoice.com. Back in just a moment. A Neighbor's Choice returns. So I want to look at this story here in Daily Mail. It says Pentagon scientists reveal a microchip that senses COVID-19 in your body before you show symptoms and a filter that extracts the virus from blood. Pentagon scientists working inside a secretive unit set up at the height of the Cold War have created a microchip to be inserted under the skin, which will detect COVID-19 infection, and a revolutionary filter that can remove the virus from the blood when attached to a dialysis machine. The team at DARPA have been working for years on preventing and ending pandemics. They assess the issues and come up with ingenious solutions, which at times appear from a science fiction novel than a working laboratory. One of their recent inventions, they told 60 Minutes on Sunday night, was a microchip which detects COVID infection in an individual before it can become an outbreak. The microchip is sure to spark worries among some about a government agency implanting a microchip in a citizen. Officials who spoke to the 60 Minutes team said the Pentagon isn't looking to track your every move. Well, so what, just some moves? Or a more detailed explanation was not given. Retired Colonel Matt Hepburn, an Army infectious disease physician leading DARPA's response to the pandemic, showed the 60 Minutes team a tissue-like gel engineered to continuously test your blood. You put it underneath your skin, and what that tells you is that there are chemical reactions going on inside the body, and that signal means you are going to have symptoms tomorrow, he explained. He said they were inspired by the struggle to stem the virus's spread on board the USS Theodore Roosevelt, where 1,271 crew members tested positive for the coronavirus. It's like a check engine light. Sailors would get the signal, then self-administer a blood draw and test themselves on site. We can have that information in 3 to 5 minutes. As you truncate that time, as you diagnose and treat, what you do is you stop the infection in its tracks. Troops are likely to be highly skeptical of the new invention. In February, the New York Times reported that a third of troops have refused to take the vaccine, citing concerns that the vaccine contains a microchip device to monitor recipients, that it will permanently disable the body's immune system, or that it is some form of government control. Another invention of Hepburn's team is a filter which is placed on a dialysis machine and removes the virus from the blood. The experimental 4-day treatment was given to patient 16, a military spouse who was in the ICU with organ failure and septic shock. You pass it through and it takes the virus out and puts the blood back in, Hepburn said. Within days, patient 16 made a full recovery. The FDA has authorized the filter for emergency use, and it has been used to treat nearly 300 critically ill patients. They have in their laboratory tissue from patients infected with the Spanish flu 100 years ago, and in 2005, a team from Mount Sinai Hospital and the Centers for Disease Control managed to recreate the virus. Oh, goodness. Oh, gosh. These people, it's like the most genius people you ever meet, and these people are going to, go ahead and bring back Spanish flu now. Is that the sequel? I mean, goodness gracious, these people, they're so competent that they had the, Dr. Fauci was funding the EcoHealth Alliance company, which was funding the Wuhan Institute of Virology, even though there were cables coming back from their own government saying this is not up to the protocol standards that we would be safe with. Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's the guy that the television tells you is the genius who saved you from coronavirus, is the guy who was funding with your money the lab where most likely this thing came out of. So that's the genius discernment that he has, is that he just kept funding it, even though his own government was telling him, this is not a good place to be funding this kind of research. Could backfire. That's the guy. See, that's why you know that you're dealing with a lot of stupid groupthink, because the facts are one thing, and then the distorted house of mirrors reality you get from television and news is this other thing. And you're like, what is going on? And so many people believe in it around you because they've always worshiped the state as their God. They just didn't have a trying time for them to show their faith to it. Do you see? That's what I want you to understand. Millions and millions of your neighbors have always worshiped the state as their true God, but they didn't have a crisis for their true, fervent, stupefied faith to come out in a very flagrant, open way. And so at the same time that this has been a trying time, it's also been a wonderful time because millions of people are now finally starting to wake up to the reality that the state has a very cult-like relationship with a lot of people, and it's a detriment to their health. Saint Dmitri of Rostov says, "He who loves his enemy subdues the waves of the sea and stills the storm. Therefore, love your enemy, and you will be a new wonder worker." Love. That's a true word. It's a powerful word, and it's something we need more of. We need less groupthink and more love of our neighbor and even our enemy. Back in just a moment after this news break. A Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm your host, David Gronowski. Let's look at some more stories here. I've got Justin sent me a friend of the show sent me a picture of a fortune cookie that says no snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. And that's a good way of describing the phenomenon of mimetic groupthink that I talk to you about every day on this program, right? Is that when you're in a giant contagion of groupthink and bystander conformity, you don't feel responsible for what happens when it goes the wrong way, it goes in the wrong direction, or it's just like this story in Marine Corps Times: new Marine Corps maternity uniforms available in April. And now that's what we're going to do. We're going to send those who are pregnant onto the front lines of war, apparently. So no snowflake in the moment of an avalanche of a society losing its mind collectively feels that it's responsible for what's happening. You're sending pregnant women to fight, Al-Qaeda, or I guess in the case of Syria, is fight alongside Al-Qaeda, right? That's what the Biden administration was all about when Obama was running the show. Nobody feels responsible when there's a giant groupthink of conformity going on. Here's a story, too, that is interesting. Inside BLM co-founder Patrice Khan Coulor's $1 million real estate buying binge. It is in the New York Post. As protests broke out across the country in the name of Black Lives Matter, the group's co-founder went on a real estate buying binge, snagging 4 high-end homes for $3.2 million in the U.S. alone, according to property records. Patrice, who's 37, also eyed property in the Bahamas at an ultra-exclusive resort where Justin Timberlake and Tiger Woods both have homes. The Post has learned luxury apartments and townhouses at the beachfront Albany Resort outside Nassau are priced between $5 million and $20 million, according to a local agent. The self-described Marxist last month purchased a $1.4 million home on a secluded road, a short drive from Malibu and Los Angeles. And the property features soaring ceilings and skylights and plenty of windows with canyon views. Hawk Newsom, I've had him on the show. The head of Black Lives Matter Greater New York City called for an independent investigation to find out how the global network spends its money. If you go around calling yourself a socialist, you have to ask how much of her own personal money is going to charitable causes. It's really sad because it makes people doubt the validity of the movement and overlook the fact that it's the people that carry this movement. Well, that's what you get. I mean, it pays a lot of money to stoke Marxist envy. You see? Everybody who's ever stoked Marxist envy ended up having a nice house if they were one of the leading voices doing it. Like I always say, Uncle Joe Stalin always had a nicer home than every other comrade. That's kind of part of the deal, isn't it? You know, you get to tell other people to hate each other with envy to push for some kind of Marxist style revolution. And then you get to cash out with Hollywood homes and hang out with the elites because that's where these revolutions come from. They're McWoke. They're manufactured by elites, by rich corporatists, or we call corporate communists. Corporate profits for them and their friends, communist scraps for the rest of us who buy into their stupidity and say, yeah, that sounds good, let's try it. Corporate profits for themselves, using the state to rig the economy for their favored corporations and neighborhoods, and then communist scraps for the rest of us, thrown off the table onto the dirt for us to pick up like dogs. That's what Biden represents. Corporate communism, corporate profits for a few corporations. That's why all the corporations are coming out. They don't want to have any election integrity stuff. They say it's election, restrictions to have election integrity, even though those were sometimes a lot of times the same standards that were in place before the COVID excuse restrictions or COVID excuse practices that were put out last year. Now you're supposed to be an extremist if you want to go back to the way voting was done before the COVID excuse election. See? That's because we have a lying and dishonest culture and a lying and dishonest TV party. They say they're for the rights of the minorities, but they don't care when those minorities live in communities like Syria and Libya and Yemen that get the attention of Biden's owners and wanting to have control and regime chaos wars over there. They don't care at that point. They say they care about my body, my choice, but that only pertains when you're talking about somebody else's body that resides in your body in the case of an unborn child. Otherwise, health passports are fine. Forced medicine, that's fine. TV party is a shameful, shameful group. Shane says the mantra of the Marxist elites is always do as I say, not as I do. That's right. You get that a lot. You get people like the co-founder of BLM talking about we want to disrupt the Western nuclear family. That's going to help the black community, according to blacklivesmatter.com. They took it off because they realized too many people were getting mad about it, right? But that's at their heart of what they want. That's why they buy homes in the hills of Hollywood, Malibu, whatever, and then they don't mind when the communities that they're supposed to be acting like they're fighting for are up in flames. And they don't mind that all the people who are languishing in COVID right now in prisons that Biden put there, no one's giving them a chance to get out. They get the nasty baloney. They get PUFA-filled food. They get no ability to get proper hygiene. They get no ability to get proper sunlight. You need to get a lot of sunlight. But you wouldn't know that if you listened to the anti-science Luddite TV press. You wouldn't know that if you listened to the Hollywood folks that like their neighbor, their BLM co-founder neighbor, they live in luxury and they yawn as cities are set on fire because, hey, it makes us have more power. So, that if you never trust a rich socialist, okay? Just like they say, don't trust a skinny chef, right? Don't trust a rich socialist, just like Bernie Sanders, millionaire, always sells out. Remember when Ron Paul was trying to do the audit the Fed bill? He passed it in the House. The House felt like they had to act like they were populist for once. The Republicans had to do some kind of gesture, so they allowed him to pass the House. And they allowed him to pass in the House, audit the Federal Reserve bill, right? And they knew that the Senate and Barack Obama wouldn't sign it, so that's the only time Republicans ever do anything that advances liberty or the people's interests, like audit the Fed, is when they know that the Senate or the White House won't actually enforce it, so they can show off and look like they're doing something and then go back to being corporatist stooges. But Ron Paul passed audit the Fed. Bernie Sanders said he was going to do it in the Senate, and at the last minute, he gutted all of the language that would give the bill any teeth and allow us to find out what was really going on with the shenanigans of the Federal Reserve System. That's the kind of hero that the TV tells you is a real threat to corporations. It's fake, mick, woke nonsense. Bernie Sanders is to power to the people what McNuggets are to your health. It's McWoke. It's nonsense. It stinks. It's sludge in terms of its vitality. The truth that he stands for, it represents dishonesty. He's not doing. Why isn't Bernie Sanders speaking every day? Mr. President, get those people out of prison. Every nonviolent person, many of which, they say they're going to get rid of. They don't do anything. He shuts his mouth. That boy shuts his mouth as soon as the corporate boys tell that boy to shut his mouth. What a loser. And so look what you see with the BLM co-founder. So busy telling you they're going to dismantle the nuclear family. We have what? What is the out-of-wedlock birth rate in the black community right now in America? 80%. So her goal with her own organization is she wants to get it to what? 90%, 99%? What is her genius idea? It's not enough that it's 80% out-of-wedlock birth rate. She wants it higher. That's the kind of genius people that get these little mansions all over the world, acting like they care about the people, but they do nothing. Why are they speaking out about every nonviolent person that's languishing in prison? We've had those people on this show. I don't hear this millionaire living in the height of luxury all over this different homes, these $1 million homes. Why doesn't this person speak out and say every nonviolent person needs to come home tomorrow, today, whatever? Mr. Biden, do what you got to do. They don't say that. Why not? Don't they care about people they say they're supposed to be caring for? Why don't they speak up? Or is it too convenient to just keep that nice little paycheck that giant corporations like to give you so that you can look like you're being a revolutionary when all you do is buy a new home in Bahamas and tell everybody about how you're such a revolutionary. These people use Marxism as a marketing tool to sell stinky, rotten corporate fascism. That's what they stand for. Stinky, rotten corporate fascism. That's why all these giant corporations love the results of these elections where stinky, rotten corporate fascism is marketed as edgy, revolutionary, democratic socialism. It's the same stench if you peel the veneer off. That's why every giant corporation goes along with McWokeism. That's why they go along with critical theory, because it's convenient. It entrenches their power in the name of making it look like someone's trying to take their power. It's so obvious. Anybody who studies this critical theory, Foucault and this stuff, these people act like they're the only game in town when it comes to justice issues, and they're not. That's why you don't let them bully you. They try to bully you. What they want to do is this critical theory stuff, what they call McWokeism. McWokeism and critical theory is all about Foucault. It's about Herbert Marcuse, all these people, these decadent, rich, lavish professors with their failed ideas. Foucault's postmodern critical theory, that's where they're getting this stuff from. And what happens is they want to act like, well, here's the deal. If you care about racial justice, you have to go with Foucault's theory. And you say, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? But see, they expect that the general public doesn't understand what you and I understand about the origins of these theories of wokeism. Oh, you're talking about Foucault? No, Foucault is not the only game in town, okay? How about Jesus Christ? Oh, you can't handle that, can you, right? You can't handle a real master of history. You got to give us these cheap imitators like Foucault about how to deal with justice or racial grievances. No, Foucault is not the only game in town. Don't let these bullies tell you, well, if you want to get on board with being aware of racial pain and dealing with grievances and dealing with justice issues, you have to go with wokeism, which is peel the layer off. Okay, it's Foucault. No, that's not the only game in town. Don't let them tell you to some stupid fringe theory that corporations find to be fashionable to invest in, that's the only game in town for how to deal with the justice issues that they act like they have a monopoly for. They don't have a monopoly for it. They're cheap imitations of the real, true defender of the victims, and that is Jesus. They're scared of his power to disrupt and destroy the corporate fascist groupthink that benefits a few at the expense of the many. That's what it's about. So they always got to come up with some other new cheap imitation of the real deal. The real deal. You don't see Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola will never, mark my words, that old stinky sugar selling group. They don't want to ever do any kind of sensitivity training to teach you how to be more like Jesus to your neighbor. But Foucault is a good little jester. You know, giant corporations have always loved stupid little jesters like Foucault, because weak little cowards like him create stupid, dumb ideologies that allow giant corporations to convince low information people that they're doing something just and bold and edgy, when in reality, they're entrenching the corrupt status quo. They don't want to let you hear Jesus, because Jesus, the real Jesus, not all these stupid things they try to mask the real Jesus. You look at the real Jesus, and the real Jesus cannot be allowed in the corporate giant failed corporations, because that Jesus builds reconciliation. That Jesus talks about do not resist evil with violence. That Jesus talks about unveiling the scapegoat mechanism behind the heart of the state. That Jesus is a Jesus that will destroy every stupid ideological edifice that keeps these stupid corporations way past their expiration date in our lives. And that Jesus is going to win no matter what these losers who hold on to their stupid court jesters like Foucault want to do. That's the bottom line. I'm David Gornosky. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. Back in just a moment. A Neighbor's Choice returns. Reed, our YouTube commenter, says the BLM approach to structural disparities stoke rioting under the pretense of social justice with effect of harming the identity group targeted for victimhood identification using the mainstream media to gaslight. It is what the BLM organization, and you always see they always do these postmodern style brands. They love to create a movement that has many different coalitions of people and ideas and flavors, right? And then they have like an official organization that's telling you, okay, we're actually just Marxists and we're going to make a lot of money off of this and stuff. And then when you call that out, they say, well, how dare you attack the movement? Did you not know this person and that person and these? And they postmodernists love using words to trip you up into confusion. And they do this intentionally because that's a tactic for them to get power. You create a movement and then you create an organization with the same name that kind of is more direct. And then when you call out that organization, say, oh my goodness, how dare you? Did you see how many good-hearted people were just trying to stop this terrible, horrible thing that happened, right? And that's how they divide people. That doesn't work on A Neighbor's Choice. A Neighbor's Choice, we have been doing the actual hard work of representing the voices of individuals of all backgrounds who are languishing in prison. So we're actually doing the real conversations that need to be happening. So these McWoke manufactured, giant Hollywood corporate sponsored fake AstroTurf movements, they just look like garbage compared to the real thing. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who goes to those protests is lumped into our criticism of the BLM organization that says they want to dismantle the Western nuclear family while they get Hollywood mansions. But that takes a level of sophistication that the TV party does not bring when they cover these types of stories. The TV party, the big giant corporate media outlets that are fading fast in relevance, they like to create a scapegoat narrative whenever they have a story that benefits giant corporations and giant government. So that's what you get. That's the kind of way it kind of ends up happening. And the same commenter Reed says, why are the nations so angry? Why do they waste their time with futile plans? The kings of the earth prepare for battle. The rulers plot together against the Lord and against his anointed one. Let us break their chains, they cry, and free ourselves from slavery to God. But the one who rules in heaven laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. Then in anger he rebukes them, terrifying them with his fierce fury. For the Lord declares, I have placed my chosen king on the throne in Jerusalem on my holy mountain. So this is Psalms 2, 1-6 NLT. But this idea, why are the nations so angry? Why do they plot in vain is another way of saying it. That's the first, sermon that's given by the early church about why Jesus came to die and then resurrect. And so the fact that these nations are raging, these ideological constructs of groupthink are raging and coming up with more and more fake court jesters like Foucault and Marx and whoever else they'll throw out next to distract us from the true master of history himself, Jesus, and what he would have us to imitate, not what they would have us to imitate. They want us to imitate violence, arrogance, hate, self-righteousness. Jesus tells us to imitate love, forgiveness, mercy, grace, compassion, nonviolence, creativity, skin in the game. He says, forgive 70 times 7. Does the McWoke culture do that? No. They say hate 70 times 7. Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. They say, no, Your neighbor must submit to Foucault's theory of critical theory, or else he's a monster. Jesus says God makes the rain fall on the just and the unjust. The McWoke corporatists say, no, rain is a construct of white supremacy. That's the kind of thing they do. They always divide powerless people against each other rather than bringing reconciliation and healing and forgiveness so that we can be united in stopping bad, horrible, unjust, systemic abuse. That's what critical theory is for. That's what McWokeism is for. That's what the TV party is for. They are the jailer to the people's freedom. They make sure that we stay stuck in mental prisons so that we cannot reclaim our birthright of liberty. But we're going to do it anyways. That's why I'm excited more than ever. It's a strange time. There's a lot of vicious, mean lies. People, in Canada are, shutting down churches. And it's happening here too in some cases. Facebook is trying to censor memes that remind people that Biden was hanging out with KKK leader Robert Byrd. These people are desperate because the internet has empowered people to learn about history and reality and the falsity of these different ideologies at a much more rapid pace, and they can't keep up with it. And so they can't get it. They're scared of a meme pointing out that their hero Biden is in a photo holding the hands of KKK leader Robert Byrd. So, people who these Facebook fact checkers are apologists for Robert Byrd. You see? They're apologists for Robert Byrd. That's their hero because he helps them advance to the moment of the revolution that they're in right now. And they don't like it when we point out the obvious unreality that they're living in. They don't like it because their lies are fragile. The truth is so much more powerful than their lies. They are so weak because they are baked in lies. Their foundation of their whole power is so fragile. That's why they're so desperate to make you feel sad and to make you feel hopeless, is because that's the only feeling they feel inside every day. Because they know that their fragile foundation of lies is quickly crumbling under the weight of their own overreach. And now we have the opportunity to build a nonviolent, loving, empathetic society based on personhood, based on loving our neighbor as ourselves. And then with that, being able to heal diseases and create technologies of wonder that will bedazzle your mind and inspire you to greatness yourself. That's what we have in front of us. That's what we're going to do. I'm David Gornosky. Email me hello@aneighborschoice.com. Godspeed.